It's coming! Fourth Starship test campaign. What to expect? Second launch site construction begins. Where are the tower sections? Rocket Lab accelerates construction of Neutron launch site. Stratolaunch is testing a hypersonic vehicle. My name is Felix. Welcome to What About It? Let's dive right in. Starship Updates. The emotions from the third flight are slowly beginning to cool down, yet you can already feel the heat of work underway to prepare the next Starship for launch. SpaceX is lightning fast. But how fast exactly are they? Want to know more? Follow me. The race to get ready for the fourth Starship launch is heating up, and for what we see, it's shaping up to be even smoother than the last one. Recently we saw reports of some comments from Kelvin Coleman, Associate Administrator for Commercial Space Transportation at the FAA, hinting that both the Federal Aviation Administration and SpaceX are seriously considering ramping up Starship's launch cadence. This is exactly what we want to hear. According to Coleman, the third Starship flight didn't raise any major red flags for the agency. Yes! It's becoming increasingly clear that Starship launches do not pose any risk to public safety. Or whales or sharks, who would have thought? Despite these encouraging words, a mishap investigation under the FAA's watchful eye is still required. SpaceX would likely undertake this on its own anyway, as understanding the root cause is the key to the iterative design approach. Very important and very much needed. Aside from the investigations, one of the current challenges slowing down the launch rate is the licensing process. Given that each new Starship prototype undergoes hundreds, if not thousands of modifications, securing a modified license for every launch has been a logistical nightmare. However, SpaceX is now working with the FAA on establishing a special license. Yes, you heard me right. This new system would potentially allow the company to get a license for, let's say, 3 launches at the same time. That is likely assuming that SpaceX can actually complete a mission where no investigation is needed. But additionally, the FAA has once again mentioned that SpaceX expects to see between 6 and 9 more launches this year alone, so there is definitely something cooking behind the scenes. And if that wasn't enough to stir excitement, Gwynne Shotwell, SpaceX's COO, has told us what to expect from the program in 2024. Now hold on to your seatbelt. Ready? According to her, reaching orbit will be the easiest thing they want to achieve this year. I tend to agree. There is one thing missing for that, an in-space engine relay to ensure a safe re-entry capability. Next in line will be the deployment of the first batch of Starlinks and the successful recovery of not only the booster, but even the ship. All of that within the next 8 months. SpaceX really knows a thing or two about ambitious goals. Shotwell also hinted that the next Starship could be launch ready within 6 weeks following the third flight, setting the next launch window towards the end of April. 420 anyone? Given that SpaceX is known for slightly over-exaggerating its timelines, I'd advise against booking your trips to Starbase just yet. However, there are indications that the campaign for this launch could indeed progress quite rapidly. Here's the proof. Let's start with the upper stage, aka Ship 29, which is currently stationed in the high bay. This prototype has already undergone 3 cryogenic proof tests at Massey's and 2 tests at the suborbital launch site. SpaceX had ambitions of conducting a static fire test before Starship's third launch, but for one reason or another, the initial spin prime test was aborted. Fortunately, just a few days later, SpaceX successfully tested the Raptor turbopumps. By then, Ship 29 needed to return to the production site to avoid a collision with the shock waves from the third launch. Although the liftoff was only a week ago, the team appears to be already preparing for Ship 29's return. This involved reactivating the LR-11000 crane, which was responsible for moving the prototypes from the transport stand to Pad B. Then, before the 2-point lifter returned, the static fire test stand was thoroughly inspected. This device, required for ground handling ship prototypes, uses the same attachment points as Mechazilla's arms. All these developments hint at Ship 29's imminent return to the launch site, possibly as early as this week. Upon its arrival, it remains to be seen if SpaceX will want to redo spin prime tests or jump directly to a 6-engine static fire. This time around, we may also once again witness 2 static fire tests. One to check out all engines and another to simulate a deorbit burn, which Ship 28 failed to conduct in space as it was unsafe to relight an engine if you can't point it in the right direction. Ship 28 practiced its waltz. Relighting an engine would have turned that into a breakdance lesson. Following these tests, Ship 29 will either remain at the gateway to Mars, waiting for stacking, or it will return to the production site for modifications. After all, SpaceX needs to address any issues that became apparent during the last flight. So that's the ship, but we also need a booster, right? Booster 11 is currently housed at the first megabay. As far as we know, it is unlikely that it will roll out to the launch pad this month due to the extensive work required to refurbish the launch table. Additionally, this prototype still needs to be equipped with its hot staging ring. Upon its return to the launch site, Booster 11 is expected to proceed directly with a full 33-engine static fire test. I love that. Later, it will likely be taken back to the production site for a brief period to remove all the sensors installed for the test. There is not much left to do. What do you think? Will we see Ship 29 or Booster 11 making their way to the launch site this month? Place your bets in the comments. It's been some time since we've examined things from the air, and thanks to the awesome people at Redline Helicopter Tours, we're about to rectify that. Our photographer John captured these images during the aforementioned spin prime test. A closer inspection of the suborbital side of Starbase reveals something truly fascinating, and this time it's not Ship 28 that's catching our attention. The parking area was demolished, and since then it's been replaced with an array of wick drains and the machinery used for their installation. Wick drains are essentially strips of plastic with internal channels supplied on rolls. They are used in a machine that drives them into the ground and precisely cuts them to the required length. Okay, but why would they need plastic strips in the ground? Well, that's part of the process required to make the ground stable for future construction. After this, additional weight such as soil or sandbags will be placed on top of the area. This added pressure helps force water from deeper layers of the soil to the surface. Such consolidation of the soil is crucial for supporting heavy structures. Without proper preparation, the foundation could settle unevenly over time, leading to sagging or structural failure. Now, what kind of heavy structure could that be? As a well-informed Y viewer, you likely already have a good idea. Stage 0, number 2. That's right, Tower number 2 is under active construction. Even though this ground preparation method accelerates the process significantly, fully draining and consolidating the ground can still span several months. However, the silver lining is that lighter construction activities can proceed as the soil is draining. As such, we might soon witness the beginnings of the second orbital tank farm. Now, before we discuss the progress regarding the second orbital launch and integration tower, or short OLIT, here's a word from our sponsor. Buckle up, it's the law.
Thank you, Felix, our honorary Florida man.
Nice!
Oh, which reminds me, imagine driving to witness a rocket launch at the Cape when suddenly you're rear-ended due to an alligator crossing the highway. Now what? Well, first, tend to others. Trade info and documents with the other drivers at the scene and with the police. Then, you should consider legal representation, especially if you're seriously hurt. Your injury could be worth millions. You can check out Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm, who will fight for your rightful compensation above lowball claims from insurance companies. Just in the past couple of months, Morgan & Morgan saw verdicts of $12 million in Florida, $26 million in Philadelphia, and $6.8 million in New York, 25 times the highest insurance offer. And the best part is, the fee is absolutely free unless you win. Did you know that you can start a claim with America's largest injury law firm in just a click? It's so easy. You can start your claim now at Morgan & Morgan at forthepeople.com/whataboutit or click the link in our description. I hope the alligator's okay.
Alright, catastrophe averted, back to Starbase. Meanwhile, a lot is going on regarding the sections of the tower itself. The components closest to the launch site have been spotted at the Sanchez site. Construction on the 8th segment of the tower began here in February. This segment now appears nearly finished, and it seems the engineers have moved forward, starting work on the 9th and top segment of the tower. This section will house the pulley system and various mechanical components essential for the Mechazilla arms. Additional 5 sections are stationed at the port of Brownsville. According to our photographer, substantial repair work is being undertaken on the stretch of Highway 4 leading to the production site, likely ahead of transporting these segments. Right, but that's only 7 out of 9 segments needed for the tower. So where are the remaining 2? Excellent question. To shed light on this mystery, we turned our attention to Florida, where our friends at Sky-Fi provided a satellite image specifically for our analysis. The return of Y orbit. Sometimes it is really worth going the extra miles to orbit. In this high-quality picture, you can see the Kennedy Space Center, featuring the vehicle assembly building at its heart. Right next to it are 2 launch pads, LC-39A and LC-39B, but that's not why we're here. Our focus is on the Roberts Road facility, which unfortunately was partially covered in clouds when this picture was taken. However, the areas of our interest remain visible. Here we see Star Factory, which is really similar to the one we can find at Starbase. To our knowledge, no active Starship construction is currently happening here. What catches our eye though is the underway expansion of this building. We've talked about these plans a few episodes ago. It is interesting to see work regarding this building, especially that we probably won't see a Starship at LC-39A for another year or so. To the right lies the tower's staging area, where all sections for the second Starbase tower except sections 8 and 9 were assembled. Peering through the cloud cover, you'll see our 2 missing sections still undergoing work. They are very likely getting ready to be transported by barge along with other critical components needed to complete the tower. This includes the quick disconnect arm, the slightly shorter Mechazilla arms or chopsticks, and the carriage system which attaches these arms to the tower. It is all coming to Starbase. You can learn more about Sky-Fi at skyfi.com. Fantastic website, it is incredible to see what can be done with satellite imagery. Thank you Sky-Fi, definitely worth a click. Looking at all these tower sections, we can already tell that the second tower won't be an exact replica of the first one. While things appear quite normal up to segment 6, notable deviations begin at segment 7. The first tower's 7th segment featured 3 levels, distinguished by horizontal beams. In contrast, the new tower's equivalent segment is made up of just 2 levels. Segment 8, which has 2 levels, is identical across both towers, but the final segment compensates for the earlier reduction by incorporating the missing level from segment 7. You may wonder, what's the point of making these adjustments? It likely comes from issues related to the center of mass encountered during the construction of the first tower, particularly when lifting the final section. This design modification shifts that center, which will hopefully make the stacking operation much safer. What do you think? When will we see the foundations for the second tower? A month from now? Maybe longer? Share your thoughts in the comments. It is incredible how much you can discover just by looking at things from the air. Did you know that you can take a helicopter ride over Starbase and get these same kind of views that you see in our videos? Visit redlineheli.com/Felix to book your very own helicopter ride over Starbase with $25 off. You'll never forget this. Now you've watched more than half the video and you're still watching. Thank you, this means you like it. We've looked into our channel metrics and there are over 2 million returning monthly viewers who have not subscribed yet. Help us improve the channel even further by double checking that you've hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our updates. While you're at it, give us a like and become a Y supporter for exclusive SpaceX updates. With it, you get access to daily Starbase photo galleries, including satellite, aerial and ground photos of SpaceX's progress and countless other extras on top. And no matter how much you decide to give, everyone gets the same supporter content and access. You decide what you want to give. For all those who watched IFT3 with us or somewhere else, I have something very special. So brand new that I don't even have my shirt yet. Our IFT3 commemorative shirt. If you loved IFT3, this is something you want to have. Designed by our very own A Prime and on our shop right now, the link to the shirt is in the description. And the link to our Patreon page and our new website is in the description as well. Thanks to all the supporters who help us fund more crazy projects. We can't thank you enough. You rock. Returning to the news, we start on a somber note. We've lost an American icon whose possibly greatest achievement was a handshake that shaped the history of spaceflight. The life of Thomas Stafford was nothing short of extraordinary. After graduating from the US Navy, he made his way to the Air Force Test Pilot School, where he built up his skills and served as a flight instructor for some time. In 1962, driven by a mix of ambition and curiosity, Stafford applied to become a NASA astronaut. Back in those days, this was an even crazier career path than it still is today. By the end of that year, he found himself selected for NASA's Astronaut Group 2, also known as the New 9. This group was essentially the vanguard of the Apollo program, featuring legends such as Neil Armstrong, Frank Borman, and Ed White. Though honestly, every single member of the new nine was a legend. The journey to the moon was fraught with challenges, a path paved by the Gemini program's extensive test campaign. These missions focused on critical and never-before-done procedures like docking and spacewalks, ensuring that NASA had a solid grasp of these procedures ahead of the Apollo missions. Initially, Tom was slated to be part of Gemini 3, the program's first crewed mission. However, when his crewmate Alan Shepard was diagnosed with an ear disease, they were both withdrawn from the prime crew for that mission. Instead, Stafford was reassigned to Gemini 6A. This mission replaced the original Gemini 6 flight after its intended docking target, the Agena target vehicle, blew up after liftoff. The revised 6A mission successfully docked with Gemini 7, capturing these breathtaking images from orbit. Following this mission, Stafford was selected for the backup crew of the Gemini 9A mission. Tragically, it was one of those rare instances where the backup crew became the prime crew. Elliot C. Jr. and Charles Bassett, the astronauts originally assigned to Gemini 9, died in a plane crash just months before the launch. As the Gemini program drew to a close, Stafford transitioned to the Apollo program, where he was initially part of the backup crew for Apollo 2. However, the early years of human spaceflight were marked by a few tragedies, including the Apollo 1 fire, which claimed the lives of 3 astronauts and momentarily stalled the Apollo program. Later, Stafford was named the commander of Apollo 10, a mission that served as a dress rehearsal for the moon landing. Upon his return to Earth, Stafford took on the role of Chief of the Astronaut Office, later embarking on another journey aboard an Apollo capsule. This mission, however, was aimed at low Earth orbit rather than the moon. I'm of course talking about the historic Apollo-Soyuz test project. This mission symbolized the end of the space race. This is also the mission behind Stafford and Alexei Leonov's iconic handshake, a gesture of international cooperation that eventually developed into a lifelong friendship. After his last mission, Stafford became a NASA advisor, contributing to future Moon and Mars exploration strategies and the development of what would eventually become the International Space Station. Sadly, Thomas Stafford passed away on March 18, 2024 at the age of 93, leaving behind a legacy filled with monumental achievements in space exploration. Thank you, Thomas. Sometimes a handshake is worth traveling to the edge of space. Rest in peace. Switching to a lighter note, let's dive into recent activities at Rocket Lab. Not so long ago, we talked about the Electron launch from New Zealand's LC-1. Rocket Lab has since rolled out another rocket, but this time to LC-2 at Wallops Island, Virginia. The Live and Let Fly mission features a classified payload for the National Reconnaissance Office, so everything about this launch is top secret. This leaves us guessing about the cargo and its intended orbit. Is it James Bond himself? We'll never know. This mission was scheduled for March 21st, so if it actually launched, you'll see an annotation on screen right now. But Wallops isn't home only to Electron. In the future, it will also accommodate Rocket Lab's upcoming and very special Neutron rocket. The company has been making some significant progress on Launch Complex 3, recently installing a water tower for the Deluge system. Standing at 86 meters or 282 feet and capable of holding more than 900,000 liters or 200,000 gallons of water, this water will help to mitigate acoustic energy during Neutron's liftoff. Additionally, foundation work for the launch pad has begun, alongside the construction of a Neutron integration facility a few kilometers from the pad, where the vehicle will be assembled before launch. Neutron will lead Rocket Lab into the age of fully reusable rockets. I sure can't wait to see this baby fly, no matter if it will be in 24 or next year. Now let's pivot to a company that is working on something truly fascinating. Those who have been following aerospace developments for a while are likely familiar with this company, or at least its colossal aircraft known as Rock. The Stratolaunch Rock is the world's largest operating plane, and its resemblance to Virgin Galactic's White Knight 2 is no coincidence. And this is precisely where it gets interesting. Stratolaunch was co-founded by the legendary duo Paul Allen and Burt Rutten, who were also behind the creation of Spaceship One, the precursor to Virgin Galactic's Spaceship Two. While Virgin's twin fuselage plane is used to support suborbital tourist spaceflight, Stratolaunch is taking a different approach with the development of the Talon A, a hypersonic flight vehicle. This ambitious test platform is designed to achieve speeds from 5 to 7 times the speed of sound. Okay, Felix, that sounds pretty sick, but why would I need a hypersonic test vehicle? Excellent question. On one front, it could serve as a platform for testing military systems needed for hypersonic missiles. For us, the space enthusiast community, the more exciting use of Talon is in helping the development of space planes. I love space planes. A hypersonic testbed can't reach space, but it can be used to evaluate avionics and other systems for vehicles like the Dream Chaser. Furthermore, the vehicle can be used to conduct scientific research, as some materials can exhibit unique properties at such extreme speeds. Despite not actually going into space, Talon A gets its speed from a rocket engine developed by Ursa Major. Following several test flights of the Rock aircraft, the second half of 2023 witnessed a separation test of the Talon, including a drop test involving a vehicle equipped with live propellant. A huge milestone came on March 13th, when Talon A was released from the Rock and successfully ignited its onboard engine for its first powered flight. Looking into the future, Stratolaunch wants to expand its fleet with larger, reusable hypersonic planes. They also have plans for an actual space plane, so watch out as they may become an important player in the space industry. That's it for today. Remember to smash that like button, subscribe for more awesome content. This is what fuels the algorithm and helps us immensely. Check out our epic shirts in your favorite Space Nerd store. A link is in the description. And if you want to train your space IQ even further, watch this video next to continue your journey. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode. It's a spin prime, sprime. Mechanical, mechanical. Mechanical? Exactly. Prototype. Featuring leggings. Space planes. I love space planes.